Hey everybody, what is going on? I am Maximus Rex. This is Big Baby Reviews. Check out my comics at KINGCOMICS.CA. Check out my other videos on my channel, King Comics 2021. Check out my Instagram, MaximusRex13, and check out my Facebook, MaxRex and or Big Baby. So today, guys, is Dale Keown Day. We're looking at the next issue of Pitt from his run in the early 90s. This is issue number 8, cover dated April, I'm not quite sure the year, 95? Yeah, 1995. So it seems like by this point, Dale Keown is at least following some sort of semi-regular kind of schedule with Pitt. So that's great for the kid me back in the day, who at this point was not following the series anymore. So, but it's nice to see that at some point he did kind of have a regular schedule going. Starting with the cover, I mean, another cool illustration from Dale Keown. I think it looks pretty awesome. I feel like there's a bit of, you know, kind of a Deadline influence on his style, maybe already on this cover and in this comic. Not that the art is shabby in any way, but I think he is trying to meet those deadlines and doing, you know, some shortcuts here and there where he can, and not in trying not to compromise the art too much, because the art still looks great. But for example, you know, just the simple shapes of the snow here, almost more like something, I don't know, Frank Miller would do or something. But then you still have the figures, which are highly rendered and very detailed, although the chains are kind of simplified a little bit and left up to the color. This character that was introduced quickly last issue, obviously comes to the fore. He's very prominent on the cover as well. I like the coloring on the eyes, when the eyes glow and stuff. I think that's pretty cool. I don't know if it's Pitt should have had it on the cover here. I haven't seen Pitt's eyes glow yet, I don't think. But seeing just his as opposed to Pitt's not would have been a little more striking, I think, especially with the claws kind of shining and stuff. But anyways, that's not what they did. I like the strange blue hue they keep using. They used it on Zoivod to a certain extent, maybe a little bit. This guy definitely has it, and the werewolf as well. There's just, I rarely see that kind of darker blue hue used, and I think it works really well in these kind of creatures, and maybe it works well with the kind of hatching that he does. It brings the kind of, I think I mentioned it last episode as well, the kind of Geiger-esque kind of aspect to the Pitt monsters, the Pitt characters in the series. And also, I just want to say we might get some stark kind of shadows on the comic. It's a particularly bright day today, excuse me, and we're getting a lot of sun, so I'm not hating it. It's making this cover, the colors pop, and it looks really good. Some strange kind of 90s effects in the back here, but overall I think the color scheme is what I like here, because again, I've talked about blue and orange, right? More red hues here, but you've got a bit of orange here and there, and in the, especially in the lighting effects. So yeah, good cover, and let's see what's going on inside. Credits: Dale Keown, creator, pencils, ink, story, Brian Houghton, script, Joe Chiodo, colors, right? So we're still in the blue and the orange, although as I said over the last few issues, the colors have subdued a bit, which is fine. It helps for maybe kind of clarity of storytelling. So I'm going to leave it there for credits. Chris Eliopoulos is the letters again. When I looked at this interior here, it was kind of funny because I saw this image, and we're going to see it later in the comic, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. This is kind of a shot of Pitt drawn by some other artist that they've thrown in as kind of a mini pinup or something. This is actually drawn by Dale Keown, so I was kind of thrown off. I was like, this is kind of, to me, you know, honestly, I would have guessed like Jeff Mitsuda or something like that, at least at that period. But that's not what we're going to get. It's actually Dale Keown, so kind of interesting out of context. And then when I saw it in the comic, I was like, okay, yeah, that makes obvious sense. So basically we've got here, jumping on from last issue, we're in Antarctica, or in the Arctic, excuse me, up north, right above Canada, because Dale Keown's Canadian, makes sense. And they're in some kind of underground kind of, not military, but highly technological base. And that allows Dale Keown to draw a lot of backgrounds. He doesn't have to, you know, use reference for too much or too much perspective, which is fine. His, you know, Arctic background is also fine as an establishing shot, but quickly drawn, obviously. Still putting in the work on the figures and the hatching and stuff, which is great. And the shock of the issue is for Grandpa to see Timmy all frozen up here inside of this hidden base in the Arctic. So Pitt's obviously, you know, wanting to free the kid. That's why they're here. But unfortunately, we get those guards again who come in. And as Pitt mentions here, these are humans working alongside the Creed. A lot of these names you'll see, Pitt, Creed, a lot of one vowel names, and then sometimes changing just a letter or two, right? That 90s thing. A lot of 90s type names in Pitt, which is cool because, again, I think Pitt is that 90s kind of most representative 90s series, I think, overall. But it does, I'll say it again, I do think it's going somewhere. I feel like it is, and there is a storyline. You know, the second or third best written Image comic from those original guys at the beginning, even though Dale Keown's not a founding father, he was there pretty early on. I still think overall Pitt just holds up a little bit better than Spawn. It's got a shorter run. It doesn't get, you know, tired, and things move pretty quickly, you know. So he's got a formula that he's using in this issue once again. You know, there's a bit of storytelling, a bit of moving of the story along with secondary characters and stuff, and then there's some sort of slugfest. That seems to be pretty much every issue up to now, which is kind of cool. Again, the slugfest between two big monsters, right? Pitt and some other big guy. And I mean, as opposed to, I've done the reviews of the Max series, you know, as opposed to that where, you know, what you're expecting kind of gets circumvented into something else. With Pitt, you get pretty much, I would say, exactly what you expect, right? Like, that's what I expect from Pitt. Some, you know, movement in the story, some fun, you know, interesting plot lines, and then, you know, some sort of fight between monsters. That's really what I want for this comic. Some cool art as well that comes with it. But that's definitely what we're getting in all these shots here. So, you know, this guy's threatening to shoot Grandpa, Timmy's grandpa, and Pitt's like, can you be that stupid? And then we get kind of a weird thing. You know, the word balloon here indicates it's someone else. If my brother were half the warrior he once was, you wouldn't be around to answer that question. So he's referring to Pitt, you know, not killing the other guy fast enough, right? And so Pitt gets smashed. We don't see the brother yet. I mean, we saw him on the cover. We saw him last issue. So poof in the snow here, kind of a funny shot. And then we got Pitt popping out of the snow, really angry. Again, easy background element to draw quickly, but help create a lot of movement. You know what I mean? And that's definitely what Dale Keown is doing here, and that's fine. It's a great design element to use and move around. And yeah, so we get the name of the brother, who's Wroth, but with a W at the beginning there. So, you know, another one of those 90s name tropes. But pretty cool double page splash overall in that there's, you know, there's some storytelling going on. And we get one kind of big, massive, cool image of Pitt getting punched in the face, I guess, or, you know, some sort of blow. But again, the reveal here of him on this page getting attacked is kind of subdued by the fact that we don't see the guy. So it's a little bit odd, right? You turn the page and you expect kind of a reveal with all this action. There isn't one until, I guess, the next page, which I will turn. But my point being, I reviewed Youngblood Bloodsport for, I'm trying to think on the timeline, that would be for tomorrow's video. Or sorry, no, at this point, last week or the week before. Anyways, check the review for Youngblood Bloodsport 2, where there's a problem with the reveal there, where something happens on the page to someone, some kind of explosion pushing character, kind of very similar to this, but you don't actually see where it's coming from. So storytelling wise, I don't know if that's the wisest way to kind of present these things. I've seen two examples this week of, you know, where that kind of leads to weak story continuity, where you're a little bit confused or like, what's happening, you know? Because basically Pitt's standing there and then boosh and some guy's talking. So what exactly happened, we're not quite sure. I think it should be a little more obvious. And we don't even get the reveal on this page, because basically Pitt gets punched literally out of the headquarters into the snow, which is cool, right? I like that epic level kind of fighting. Kind of reminds me of maybe like an Image version of Dragon Ball or something. Really like this shot down here. This harkens back to me anyways, Jack Kirby. I don't know if Jack Kirby invented this kind of composition and design and paneling. You know, the two legs of the character in the foreground and some small characters obviously in the background between those legs. So it's like a double framing device. There's the framing of the panel, and then the legs frame these characters into kind of almost an imaginary panel as well. Image within an image, that whole idea. But I definitely think Jack Kirby popularized it, and that's what Dale Keown's doing here. I've used it. I did this pretty cool, I think, Batman pin-up with the Joker, where, you know, it's something like this. From the Dark Knight movie, right? Where Joker's walking up towards Batman. Batman's coming towards him with a motorcycle. So you basically see between Joker's legs and see Batman on a motorcycle coming towards you. Maybe I'll post it one day. So what I think should have been kind of the reveal is actually here. But okay, I get why now, storytelling wise, right? I'll take that back, because obviously pops out, and then this guy Wroth pops out as well, and then we get the reveal, right? But again, sparse backgrounds. He's smart with it. We know where he's in the Arctic. He still establishes that the ship is there, so I do appreciate that. The ship is pretty intricate and complicated, and does a really good job of it here. You know, smartly enough, I guess. Like maybe just like, I know the colors kind of suggest maybe a few clouds or something just to spice it up, you know, in this panel. Understand why there are no backgrounds here. Big sound effect, that's fine. And here, well, I get it's a reveal and stuff, but man, just some kind of indication, especially on a shot like this. It's not like, you know, a little horizon line, a hill or something. Again, clouds, just to give it some layering, right? I know you want to focus on the character and what a character it is, and you know, basically it's like shaved Pitt with sharper teeth, right? He's almost kind of shark-like, again, like a Hulk version of the alien creature, the Geiger kind of creature. And I mean, look at that hatching, like that's masterful, right? Stephen Platt wishes he could do double lighting and hatching like this. Just amazing. The volumes and how he creates them, and the quality of the volumes always amazes me. All right, we get a Liefeld vertical 2-page spread, but I'll just say I definitely think it's worth it. Can I put it here? I guess it cuts off the top a bit, right? Let's see how much I can get to fit in there. That's about it. I'll pull down a bit to show you guys. So yeah, again, if you're going to do double page splash, not that I'm against a full double page splash, you know, if it's really intricate and stuff, but if you're going to do something like this, where it's more of a splash with a couple of panels, there's a bit of storytelling, even though you've taken up 2 pages, I'm all for that. So it still moves the story along. Not the 2 drawings where you spent the most time, definitely on this one here, but again, look at the masterful hatching on the musculature, everything, the hair, just beautiful, like penmanship or inkmanship. Yeah, good stuff. So here's that headshot I was telling you about at the beginning of the issue. Yeah, it just seems uncharacteristically Dale Keown, but I still think, like, again, in the sequence and the story it works, but like now that I've seen it there, it's just slightly jarring to me. We get some more weird colored blood, which is kind of a trope of Pitt. All these shots, it's just, there's so much mass and volume to his, like there's no one who draws big muscular guys better than him. I can't think of anyone. Just the weight and the balance compared to this guy, right? Whose name is Kite, and he's kind of svelte and muscular, and like just everything solid. See, here's another example where even on the inside here, I feel like, you know, prior years, Dale Keown might have added more detail to all this tech and stuff, but he's kind of leaving it open to the colors, where I feel maybe the colors could have done something a little more here, but it still works and still establishes where they are perfectly. Reiki here, who is being brought to their leader, just double crosses these guys, takes the gun, kills them both. She's pretty effective. So the battle continues between Pitt and Wroth, member of the Creed. And I love all this stuff. Like, I don't know, but as an artist, to get all this intricate kind of gooey stuff, whether it's blood or someone's wet or anything, it's hard to draw. And Dale Keown just does a really great job of it. It does look pretty sticky, I would say. But, you know, to establish the forms and then go back and establish the shapes and areas that, you know, negative space that you need to create a look of, you know, wetness or stickiness or whatever. He's very intricate with it and does a really good job of it. It's not easy to draw. That's what I'm saying. These kind of shots, you got to take your time and make sure everything's clear. When I do these kind of things in my own comic, I end up coming back with the white medium a lot to have to fix a lot of that stuff. So Kite apparently has just like a super hyper killer setting to his gun, so he shoots Wroth with that, pushes him back. And all right, so this is definitely not the best written page in the sense that this is basically all exposition. We find out that our Professor Xavier kind of character, who was the leader, it seems, of these characters, Axiom is what I found out they were called in this issue. It was probably mentioned before, but I missed it. And I will read a little bit of this because this is, again, I say the story is stronger than other Image comics. Doesn't mean it's like Alan Moore level stuff. This is a lot of exposition, and I just think it's kind of funny to read this page. So, all right, Grandpa, you'll never get away with it with this. Not if I can help it. Shut up, old man. No, let him talk. This is where Grandpa demands to know what's going on. Then, of course, I'm supposed to divulge all our devious plans of domination and debauchery, thus giving adequate time for the good guys to show up and save the day. So we're going with, you know, super cliches here. Grandpa, it worked on Matlock. I don't know if anyone today would understand that reference. A sense of humor. I like that. And because we're going to kill you anyway, I can reveal to you. So why not just kill him now and not reveal, right? Again, so it's, it's trying to poke fun at it, but it's basically doing that thing that is cheesy and that, all these kind of stories generally do. The dialogue could have been worked out better when that's not happening. That's where Dale Keown should come in as an editor and be like, no, I don't want to play it that way. Kind of cheapens Pitt a little bit to have this kind of stuff in it, I think. Still love it, but this part, it's why I'm reading it out loud. So I can reveal to you that your grandson Timmy possesses within him the power to avert an intended hostile takeover of this entire planet. Isn't that convenient for us to find out? The gentleman you see hanging there is Detective Jack Smithers. Detective Smithers was implanted with Creed microtechnology. This implantation occurred back when he and Detective Bobby Harass, this lady here, Reiki, encountered the first bounty hunters. And I do have to point out that there's a star, and I don't see where the reference goes to. So again, editing-wise, you put something like this, you got to have the reference somewhere, maybe down here, and it's not there. Kind of odd. But I'm pretty sure they're talking about issue 1, or at least the Youngblood preview, maybe. Not quite sure there. It's far back now. With this microtechnology working in conjunction with a Creed orbiting satellite, the ship that we've seen over the past few issues, Zoivod can successfully manifest himself through our man Jack here. So Zoivod manifested himself through one of his dead minions in the past issue, so he's not dead. He can just manifest through other people's bodies. Without Zoivod's influence, there can be no invasion. So by freezing young Timmy, he becomes rendered in a state which allows Zoivod to enter his subconscious and eradicate the Child of Light known as Jarub or Garub. The wizard publisher, that's whose name was taken for that character. It's a beautiful plan, wouldn't you agree? So Reiki comes in. There's nothing beautiful about child abuse, okay? And she basically comes in and starts blasting everyone. So I mean, it does help kind of lay out what's happening, but maybe that should have been conveyed more in the art once again when we're talking about story and stuff. It's one of those things where if you got to describe so much of it in the dialogue, maybe the art's not doing such a great job of conveying the story. So in that sense here, all this stuff is conveyed through pretty long, boring exposition. Very kind of Chris Claremont-like, is if I had to compare. I'm not a huge fan of Chris Claremont's writing. Anyways, so now we know where we're at. So we got to make sure Timmy gets out of the ice so he can make sure Zoivod doesn't come here and pop out through this guy's body, right? So, he's going to kill everyone anyways, and it's not going to happen, but he has explained, if that were to happen, what would happen? And obviously we know that is what's going to happen. All right, so battle continues with the guns. We got Pitt still fighting with his half-brother Wroth here. So he's revealing through dialogue and stuff that they're both half-breeds, right? So they got some of Zoivod's DNA, but also another races. So I'm not quite sure. I'm assuming the Creed or the race that the other guys are is maybe what's mixed in with old Wroth here. But Pitt is half-human, basically. I guess that's why he's got this slightly grayish Caucasian tan. I don't know. Maybe it's not a human skin tone, but I guess it's closer than Wroth is, right? Some cool shots during the fight, though. Like these up-close shots with all the blood in their face and stuff, I think look great. We still got Kite out here helping out. Kite can fly, obviously. That makes sense, right? And so what happens at this point is we get our character, again, Smithers, where Zoivod is about to pop out through him. But then Timmy here becomes conscious and basically stops it, right? So this must end now. And not Timmy necessarily, but Jareb, right? The alien telekinesis child or whatever. And basically, this whole place kind of explodes. Woof kills a bunch of the Creed and the human soldiers. Pitt is pushed out pretty much into the vacuum of space. Literally is what it says in the story. So by this massive beam of energy, which then goes to destroy the satellite once again that the Creed had with Zoivod on it. So reaching its intended target, the threat of Zoivod and his Creed is extinguished, at least for the time being, right? Because we know that Zoivod can manifest pretty much everywhere. I kind of like that idea of this villain who can just, I don't know if that's wholly original, but maybe in the 90s it was. I think I'm going to rip that off somehow. Or at least change it up a little bit, but I kind of like that concept of the big villain being able to manifest in different places and never truly dying, right? It's like an interesting way to explain that away so that you have a recurring villain. I'm looking at this from like a writer's perspective. So not too bad and pretty clever for the Pitt series. Another good example of what's good in the writing. And I mean, stuff happened in this issue for sure. It's not, you know, and now we do kind of get some more backgrounds here. I mean, space is always fun and quick to draw, Antarctica as well. So he's not cheaping out on these pages, I feel, thankfully. So they've picked up Pitt's signal. He's out there floating in space. They go get him. This is Axiom, of course. They've rescued Grandpa and Timmy as well. So here we get Pitt out floating in space. And then we've got the Star Child, Jareb, popping out of Timmy, going to talk to Pitt. What does he say? The circle is complete. My essence has fulfilled itself. I must return home. I am now one with the powers of light. So moving on to some other dimension, I guess. I'm greatly indebted to you, Pitt. You kept me alive at great risk to yourself and others. You will remain here on Earth. This is your home now. Before I leave, there is one thing I must share with you, the truth. Boop. Kind of reminds me of the Ultimate Warrior comic where he confronts his inner child. Kind of similar. Maybe the artist of that saw this. I know, again, that a lot of artists from the 90s, you know, up-and-coming guys were, independent guys were ripping off Dale Keown a lot. A lot of the Image guys, basically, right? Rip off from the best. Dale Keown was definitely one of the best artists at Image, for sure. A lot of these pages prove it. So here's a good example of, right, like, again, the figures look pretty darn good, but, like, wow, he's just not spending any effort on these background buildings, not even being super precise. Like, this is just sketch-level buildings. And it totally works, so I don't really have a problem with it. So, now we're in New York at the penthouse, I guess, of these Axiom characters. What do you do now that you're a free man, so to speak? I will go now. What about the boy? I won't be far. Pitt, you know, just has a very elaborate vocabulary all throughout the series. Someone in the kitchen. Timmy, you're awake. Good Lord, I don't believe it. Look, Grandpa, I found some Count Chocula in the cupboard. Feels like I didn't eat anything for at least 2 years. The end. Is that also, I thought maybe this is kind of a jab at Dale Keown and that maybe it took him like 2 years to get through 8 issues? So we're at issue 8, right? I don't know for sure if that's some sort of inside joke, but I kind of feel like it is. Coming soon, and that's the end of this story. And it we have a definitive conclusion, I would say, to this second storyline to Pitt. So yeah, nice. Again, I'm interested in where this is going to go and where next issue is going to lead, which is what you want. So out of all these older Image comics, Pitt is the one I kind of look forward to reviewing the most, honestly. At least art-wise and story-wise as well, more so than some of the other stuff. I won't get into details. I'm sure I've talked about it this anyways. Coming soon, the Pitt CD, music performed by Pitt Crew, which is, I guess, Dale Keown and his buddies who play music. Don't know if that ever came out. If anyone knows anything about this, maybe I'll look it up on Google, YouTube, see if anything pops up. I'd be interested to hear. Is there like a Pitt theme song? You know, I've got the Big Baby theme song I wrote with and performed, and one of my producer buddies recorded it with me. So, you know, it's not impossible. In the 90s, maybe it was a little bit harder or rarer to have maybe comic book guys who play music. I don't know. Anyone knows anything about that? Let me know in the comments. And not much more of anything else here of particular interest to me. T-minus, the countdown begins in May with Weapon Zero. Yeah, so this, I remember, what I would say this is like, who's Weapon Zero? Mark Silvestri, Walter Simonson, Joe Benitez, and Bat. So Mark Silvestri and Walter Simonson are the ones writing this. Joe Benitez was drawing, right? So what I feel like is this is kind of an in-between for Mark Silvestri and his studio at that time. It's kind of an in-between Cyberforce and in-between Witchblade and Darkness. So it's almost like, you know, Cyberforce didn't really work out, so he kind of still liked, I guess, drawing cybernetics and stuff. So Mark Silvestri designs kind of another style or a more evolved version of the kind of, you know, technological 90s characters that were going on in Cyberforce, right? He's kind of pushed it forward a little bit here with the design, almost making it slightly more organic at this point. And then the next step is to make it look even more organic, like maybe take more of what's on this creature up here, this kind of more alien looking guy, and apply that to the lady. I mean, this is kind of proto Witchblade, right? Wouldn't you agree? But if you take more of this and lay that on top of her here and make her even more naked, then you actually have Witchblade, which then leads to Darkness, and where Darkness, you know, he's got his face covered and stuff, but basically this guy here is proto Darkness, right? That's what, you know, when I look back now, that's what I feel with this whole thing. It's like, take these two characters, This becomes Witchblade. This becomes Darkness if you just apply, I guess, take this guy's mask, take this guy's more kind of organic-y looking textures and dump those on top there. So that's kind of the evolution. And, you know, really, Mark Silvestri doesn't really have a huge hit with Cyberforce, doesn't really have a huge hit with Weapon Zero, but then when Witchblade hits, that really hits hard. And Darkness, from what I remember, was still pretty popular as well. Garth Ennis was writing that too at the time, and he was pretty hot, so he was so hot then. Oddities presents The Max, lurking on MTV now. Oh man, love that cartoon, right? The first few issues of The Max, animated, and, you know, 60s Spider-Man style, but better, where they take art from the comic and they actually animate that. Just a great series and a great moment in time, I would say, from when I was a teenager. Cyberforce discovers a few shocking new revelations about its nemesis Cyberdata technologies and themselves. Oh, so dramatic. So Mark Silvestri, I guess at this point, even though he's got Weapon Zero, he's still doing Cyberforce. Maybe another artist is drawing it. I don't know for sure. It doesn't really say who the creative team is here, so that's interesting. You would think if it was Mark Silvestri, you would advertise it. This is interesting. Again, did this ever come out? Does anyone have any? Have you seen it? Maybe I should look it up as well on the internet. Let me know in the comments if you know anything about this. But the Zoivod pewter figure standing at 2 3/8 tall, Pitt's nemesis Zoivod looks as menacing as ever, intricately created by Clayburn Moore. Okay, so he was the guy who was sculpting some high-end stuff even back then. Just this is very small, right? Dale Keown's Zoivod is a must for every Pitt fan. The pewter figure will be a limited edition. Order from your local comic retailer. So if anyone has this, let me know in the comments, or if anyone's seen it. Just kind of an interesting thing. I feel like this whole ad kind of harkens back to a few years earlier, more like an 80s kind of ad. Even though it's 1995, it looks more like 1985 to me, and almost like they're trying to get that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles kind of feel, because there were those originally one of the first products that the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle creators did relating to the comic were these Ninja Turtles pewter figures, right? So somehow I feel like there's a slight reference to that, even though it's 10 years later. I might be wrong. Let me know what you think about that. All right, well, there you go, guys. That is my review of Pitt issue number 8. If you are still watching the videos and you're subscribed to the channel, thank you so much. I really appreciate your support. If you are not subscribed, but you are watching the videos, might as well subscribe. Takes just about a second. Helps the channel grow, helps us get bigger and get out there to more people who are interested in comic books, just like we are. So once again, thank you for watching, guys, and have an awesome day.
Like, subscribe, like, subscribe.
King Comics presents Big Baby, Volume 1, Issues 1 to 13, 204 pages of story and art. King Comics also presents Star Crasher one-shot, 32 pages, cosmic sci-fi surrealist adventure. You can find these fine comics at KingComics.CA, at MaximusRex13 on Instagram, or on Facebook, MaxRex or Big Baby.